Hello everyone, welcome back to Whispered Unknowns. Tonight we're diving into the disturbing truths the world tried to keep buried. These aren't just stories, they're chilling realities whispered through time. If you're listening as you drift off to sleep, leave a comment below and tell me where you're watching from. And if you're enjoying these hidden horrors, don't forget to like, subscribe, and turn on notifications so you never miss what lurks beneath the surface. Shadows of Secrets, Unraveled Mysteries. A reimagined collection of suspenseful tales, crafted to ensure originality and comply with copyright policies. Which story haunts you most? Discover Echoes of the Unknown on Amazon for more gripping narratives and visuals. Follow Mystery Unraveled on Spotify or Apple, rate it, and share your thoughts at mysteryunraveled.net. More chilling tales await. Thank you for joining us. The Cabin's Dark Legacy. A journey to Maine, a troubled past. Growing up, I had little family. My mother passed early, estranged from her kin, and my father struggled with mental health before his death. My only known relative, my uncle, lived in isolation in a Maine cabin, blaming himself for my father's fate, a burden I shared. By 2015, I'd carved out a life in Boston as an assistant manager at a brewery pub, with a modest apartment and a few dates, determined to leave my past behind. An unexpected inheritance. A letter from an Augusta, Maine attorney's office shattered my peace. My uncle had died, leaving something for me in a safety deposit box. I called, feigning busyness, but learned I'd need to visit in person to claim a key to the box. Curiosity and the lure of potential money outweighed my reluctance. On July 17, 2015, I drove 5 hours to Augusta, dread mounting as I reached the quaint law firm, fearing a revelation that would undo my progress. A cryptic message. At Bangor Savings Bank, the box revealed cash for the attorney and a letter for me. Too shaken to read it, I asked the attorney to summarize it coldly. The letter contained coordinates likely my Uncle S. cabin in the Debsconiag Lakes wilderness area, and 3 words: burn it all. The attorney couldn't explain further, but my curiosity turned morbid. I needed to know what my uncle hid, even if it meant confronting darkness. The cabin's horror. Following the coordinates, I hiked through a forest dotted with eerie brain fungus and devil's tooth mushrooms, their numbers growing as I neared the cabin. The stench hit first rotten, meaty, unbearable. The cabin was overrun with fungi, the air thick with humidity. Inside, a pot on the stove simmered with an unknown substance, rubber tubes spreading vapor. Books, mold, and strange pictograms littered the space. Overwhelmed, I doused the cabin in gasoline and set it ablaze, the flames roaring as I fled, haunted by unanswered questions. The Somerset tragedy, a family's demise, a perfect facade. In June 1976, the affluent Harper family from Detroit vacationed at their Lake Michigan cottage, Somerset, near Goodhart. Parents David and Ellen, who earned their wealth in publishing, had 4 children: 19-year-old Michael, 16-year-old Stephen, 12-year-old Nathan, and 7-year-old Emily. They seemed the ideal family, but David's failing business and inappropriate workplace behavior hid a darker reality. A gruesome discovery. A month later, a caretaker investigated a foul smell at Somerset. Forcing entry, he found a horrific scene. The heat was on, accelerating decomposition. Ellen lay dead from a gunshot to the head, David from multiple shots and blunt trauma. Nathan and Emily were nearby, killed by gunshots and a hammer. Michael and Stephen, found in a bedroom, had been shot multiple times. A lone assassin had meticulously covered their tracks, leaving the crime unnoticed for weeks. A suspect emerges. Police focused on James Carter, a former employee with a history of embezzlement from David's company. Carter had recently purchased weapons matching the murder calibers. Evidence at his father-in-law's firing range linked him further, but despite failing lie detector tests, charges were delayed due to missing weapons. In 1973, facing arrest, Carter took his own life, leaving a note denying the murders, but admitting to deceit. The case remains officially unsolved. Descent into Madness, a killer's delusion, a promising start. Born in 1947, Henry Carter grew up in Salinas, California, under a strict veteran father. Despite a disciplined upbringing, Henry excelled socially. voted most likely to succeed in high school. But in 1965, a friend's death in a car accident plunged him into depression, marked by an unsettling shrine and fears of unrequited love, straining his relationships. A dark turn. By 1969, Henry's drug use and untreated schizophrenia led to psychiatric admissions, which he soon abandoned. His behavior deteriorated. Evictions, vagrancy arrests, and delusions followed. Convinced that human sacrifices prevented earthquakes tied to historical events like the 1906 San Francisco quake, he began a killing spree in 1972, targeting those he believed aided a subterranean evil. A trail of blood. Henry killed a former friend and a woman who helped him, along with her children, to cover his tracks. He murdered a hitchhiker, a student, a priest, and a fisherman, often with brutal mutilation. In 1973, he shot 4 teens in Henry Cowell Redwood State Park for polluting the forest. Arrested soon after, he confessed, claiming his murders stopped earthquakes, a claim eerily supported by a quake 11 days later. Convicted of 10 murders, he remains in prison, denied parole. The Keddy nightmare, a family shattered, a fresh start. In 1979, Sarah Evans and her 5 children fled an abusive home in Connecticut for a cabin in Keddy, California. On April 11, 1981, Sarah, 14-year-old Lily, and 5-year-old Tim picked up 10-year-old Ben from a baseball field, then 15-year-old Matt and his friend Dylan, who were hitchhiking. Lily slept over at a neighbor's, while Sarah stayed with the younger boys and their friend Ethan. 12-year-old Anna returned home by 9:30 p.m. A brutal attack. The next morning, Lily found her mother, Matt, and Dylan dead in the living room, bound and brutally killed with knives and a hammer. Sarah had been stabbed and struck with a BB gun, her throat slashed. Matt and Dylan suffered hammer blows, Dylan also strangled. The younger boys survived, but Anna was missing. No forced entry suggested the killer was known to the family. An ongoing mystery. Investigations pointed to a neighbor, Martin, whose wife later accused him of the murders, claiming he burned evidence and admitted to killing Sarah and Anna. A hammer matching the murder weapon was found in 2016, and 2018 DNA evidence linked a living suspect, hinting at closure. Yet, the case remains open. Anna's remains found in 1984, leaving lingering questions about Keddy's dark night. Reflections on the unknown. From isolated cabins to suburban tragedies, these stories reveal the fragility of safety and the depths of human darkness. Share your thoughts below and subscribe for more. Stay vigilant, stay curious. The shadow of a Soviet monster, a serial killer unveiled. We dive into the harrowing tale of one of history's most ruthless serial killers, a man who terrorized Soviet Russia with the brutal murders of over 50 victims. Join us as we trace the chilling details of his life, peering into the depths of his warped mind to grasp the influences that molded this predatory figure. A disturbing discovery. In April 1989, near a train station in a wooded Lesopolosy strip, investigators found the remains of a 16-year-old boy missing since the previous summer. His body, hidden under snow for months, showed signs of repeated stabbings, with his testicles and penis removed. A watch engraved with a gift from his aunt and uncle was missing. Its recovery could have been a breakthrough. Undercover officers monitoring public transport reported no suspicious activity, but a ticket clerk recalled a man that summer attempting to lure her son into the woods. Though located and cleared, the lead fizzled out. Escalating patterns. On May 11th, an 8-year-old boy vanished, found 2 months later beside a road, stabbed and genitally mutilated. This shift from wooded areas to open spaces suggested the killer noticed surveillance at train stations, adapting his method. It was a reckless move, hinting at possible desperation. In August, a Hungarian student, Irina Kovacs, was found violated in a remote wooded area far from transport hubs, fitting the Lesopolosy pattern. Within a week, 10-year-old Alexei Dmitriev went missing, his sexually mutilated body discovered in early 1990. Another 10-year-old boy followed, his sexual organs and tongue, possibly bitten off, removed. By late July 1990, workers in a botanical garden found 13-year-old Viktor Sokolov killed and mutilated, bringing the suspected victim count to 32 over 8 years. With press freedom growing, newspapers amplified public pressure, threatening lower-ranking investigators with dismissal. On August 17th, 11-year-old Ivan Novikov was stabbed 42 times and castrated while swimming near his grandmother's cottage in Tallinsk, within earshot of potential witnesses. Public outrage mounted, prompting investigator Alexei Volkov to devise a new strategy. He selected key stations like Donlask, where 2 victims were found, making surveillance overt elsewhere to funnel the killer into monitored areas. Officers in plain clothes recorded every man's name, while others posed as farmers in nearby forests, a massive operation involving over 350 personnel. A trap set and a killer emerges. His reliance on the slow-moving electric train offered no witnesses to his exit. Despair gripped Volkov as 16-year-old Viktor Petrov, a sturdy 130-pound athlete, vanished from Shakti Station. His body, found 2 miles south in a grove where a mother and daughter died 6 years prior, showed signs of a fierce struggle. Despite the trap, the killer struck again a young woman, the 36th victim, beaten, sliced open, and partially tongued, with no witnesses despite nearby activity. Reports flagged a familiar name, Andrei Pavlovich, 54, spotted at Donlask on November 6th. Previously questioned and released in 1984 due to mismatched blood types, his presence now chilled investigators. Seen exiting the woods, he washed his hands at a pump, with a red smear on his cheek, a cut finger, and twigs on his coat. Records showed he'd resigned from teaching after molestation allegations, was fired from a supply job for failing to deliver goods, and his travel aligned with murders, including one in Moscow. His 1984 imprisonment coincided with a murder hiatus. The interrogation under surveillance, Pavlovich seemed unremarkable, frustrating efforts. Chief investigator Nikolai Kostin, reviewing past reports, ordered his arrest on November 20th, 1990. 3 plainclothes officers noted he lacked gold teeth, as described by a witness, revealing a married man with 2 children and a university degree. His satchel held a folding knife. A cellmate informant failed to elicit a confession, and a home search humiliating his family yielded 23 knives but no victim evidence. Kostin took over, using a sparse room with a safe to imply evidence, aiming to break Pavlovich with compassion. Tall, with a long neck, sloping shoulders, oversized glasses, and grey hair, Pavlovich shuffled like an old man. But Kostin saw a calculated killer. Pavlovich denied being at the station, claiming a police error as in 1984. Waiving counsel, he wrote of sexual weakness and humiliation, hinting at perversion without specifics, and admitted impotence. Kostin suggested confessing to mental illness for a sanity plea, but Pavlovich used 2 days alone to fortify his denial, later admitting minor 1977 assaults on students, but not murders. A medical exam revealed his blood type A, but semen showed a weak B antibody, a rare paradox matching earlier samples. The informant criticized rough tactics, and with 9 days elapsed, Kostin enlisted psychiatrist Dr. Dmitry Bukharin. Bukharin, intrigued by the case, matched Pavlovich to his 1987 profile. Ordinary, solitary, non-threatening. Showing humility, he discussed the profile, sensing Pavlovich's rage. After 2 hours, Pavlovich trembled, admitting the truth, confessing to 36 murders. The confession and trial Pavlovich detailed his first kill in 1978, a 9-year-old girl, Olga Ivanova, lured to a shed where impotence drove him to stab and strangle her, ejaculating during the frenzy. A witness saw him, but his wife's alibi cleared him. Another man was executed. He confessed to blinding victims due to a superstition about eyes retaining his image, later stopping when he doubted it. His attacks escalated, biting off nipples, swallowing them, and mutilating genitals, achieving arousal from blood and agony. He sketched crime scenes, confirming details, and added victims, including a boy buried in a suicide-intended grave and a dismembered body dumped in a sewer. 56 murders total, with 53 corroborated, 31 females, 22 males. Born in 1936 in a Ukrainian village, Pavlovich suffered hydrocephalus, causing genital issues and bedwetting into adolescence. His father's WA22 capture and vilification, plus famine and war horrors, shaped his lonely, fantasy-driven childhood. Mocked at school, his first sexual act at 15, overpowering a girl, linked violence to arousal. Marriage in 1963, arranged by his sister, produced children via manual insemination due to impotence. Teaching ended with molestation complaints, leading to his first murder in 1978 while on a supply trip. The verdict. Arrested in 1990, Pavlovich sought treatment, but assessments deemed him sane. Tried on April 14, 1992, in a caged Rostov courtroom, he faced 225 evidence volumes. Victims' families screamed as he entered, bald and bespectacled, occasionally exposing himself to deny homosexuality. His lawyer, poorly prepared, couldn't counter prosecution experts. Judge Viktor Kuznetsov's bias and a rare blood type explanation sealed his fate. Confessing to 56 murders, claiming victimhood of the Soviet system, he was sentenced to death on October 14th. Appeals failed, and on February 15, 1994, he was executed by a shot to the head. The Silent Stalker, unveiling a Soviet enigma. We uncover the grim saga of a notorious Soviet serial killer, responsible for over 50 gruesome murders between 1978 and 1990. Join us as we unravel the disturbing layers of his life, exploring the twisted psyche that drove this elusive predator. A pause and a pattern. After a near encounter with authorities in 1984, the killer ceased documented attacks for 3 years, possibly deterred by legal scrutiny. Previously dismissed from teaching due to child abuse allegations, he shifted to a clerk role at a raw materials plant in Rostov in early 1981. The job's travel demands provided access to vulnerable youths. On September 3, 1981, his next victim, 17-year-old Maria Ivanova, was strangled, stabbed, and gagged with soil and foliage to muffle her cries, triggering his sexual release. This marked the start of a pattern, targeting young runaways of both genders at transport hubs, luring them to forests attempting rape. Early victims often had their eye sockets slashed, a practice he later linked to a belief that his image lingered in their eyes post-mortem. A hidden threat. In the Soviet Union, serial killers were rarely acknowledged, with state media suppressing such crimes to maintain order, possibly due to cultural differences from the West. The mutilation signature eventually connected cases as the body count rose, sparking rumors of foreign plots or mythical beasts, heightening public fear despite media silence. In 1983, Moscow detective Major Dmitry Kuznetsov took charge in Rostov, suspecting a serial killer. He assigned forensic specialist Ivan Petrov to lead in Shakhty, focusing on sex offenders and the mentally ill. Harsh interrogations yielded false confessions, which Petrov doubted, slowing progress as not all bodies were found, obscuring the true toll. Evidence and errors. Forensic evidence grew with each discovery, suggesting the killer had blood type AB based on semen samples, alongside grey hair traces. In 1984, 15 more victims emerged, prompting massive surveillance at transport hubs. The suspect, arrested for odd behavior at a bus station, avoided murder charges when his blood type didn't T-match, unaware his type A blood differed from his AB secreting fluids, a non-secretor trait missed without a blood sample. Modern DNA could have clarified this. Imprisoned for minor thefts, he served 3 months and was released. A profile emerges. Post-release, he worked as a buyer for a rail company in Novoshakhtinsk, staying low until August 1985, when he killed 2 women. Frustrated, Petrov consulted psychiatrist Sergei Volkov, who refined the profile. A necrosadist, aged 45-50, gaining arousal from suffering and death, likely married with a job requiring travel, killing midweek. Attacks paused, leading police to speculate he'd stopped, been jailed, or died. In 1988, he resumed, shifting from Rostov and avoiding surveilled transport hubs, adding 19 victims over 2 years, often boys in public spaces, escalating risks. The manhunt intensifies Gorbachev's glasnost-fueled media pressure, boosting patrols. Petrov deployed undercover agents in likely areas, narrowly missing the killer twice. On November 6, 1990, after murdering 22-year-old Olga Mikhailova near Donlask station, his suspicious demeanor washing at a well grass-stained coat, red smear on his cheek, and a sports bag drew an officer's attention. His formal attire and lack of foraging gear raised flags, but he was released after a document check. Capture and confession. On November 13th, Mikhailova's body was found, linking his name from 1984 reports to the case. Surveillance confirmed his pattern of approaching youths. Arrested November 20th at a cafe in Novoshakhtinsk. A bite wound on his finger and a folding knife in his possession hinted at a struggle. Held at KGB headquarters, he denied murders but admitted past molestation, writing essays hinting at psychological issues. Interrogator Nikolai Smirnov used a strategy of portraying him as ill, offering hope of leniency via insanity, but he resisted. On November 29th, Volkov, reading his 1985 profile, broke through within 2 hours, eliciting a confession to 36 murders, later expanding to 56, with 53 verified, 31 females, 22 males. He led police to undiscovered sites, proving his guilt. Evaluated sane at the Serbsky Institute, his case hit the post-Soviet media in December 1991. Trial and execution. Tried on April 14, 1992, in a caged Rostov courtroom, he faced victims' relatives' wrath, shaved and erratic singing, gibbering, and exposing himself. Judge Alexei Romanov, biased, overruled defenses, delaying the verdict to October 15th, when he was convicted of 52 murders and sentenced to death. An appeal failed, and on February 14, 1994, he was executed by a shot to the head in Novocherkassk prison. Volkov later became a noted expert on sexual disorders. Born in 1936 in Yablunovka, Ukraine, amid Stalin's famine, he grew up with tales of cannibalism, possibly his brother's fate shaping a lonely, bullied childhood, marked by impotence and violence, linked to arousal. Married in 1963, he taught until molestation complaints ended his career in 1981, sparking his killing spree. Reflection. This tale of darkness reminds us of evil's potential, leaving scars on families. Let's honor the victims by understanding the mind's depths to prevent future horrors, seeking light through knowledge and empathy. Echoes of the lost. Tales from the wild. We honor the spirit of exploration and mystery with stories inspired by the untamed wilderness, paying tribute to those who document the unexplained. Tonight, we delve into tales of disappearance that captivate and unsettle, drawing from a passion for the unknown. The Lone Hiker of Olympic Shadows. On Friday, September 5, 1997, 73-year-old Thomas Hargrove, a retired minister from Port Townsend, set out to camp in Washington's Olympic National Park. Described by his pastor, Reverend Daniel Reese, as a gentle, upbeat soul with a deep love for mountains, Thomas was remarkably fit despite partial blindness in one eye. An avid outdoorsman, he often hiked solo, outpacing younger companions like his friend Mark Ellison, who noted, "He moves like a man half his age, sometimes I can't keep up." Thomas planned to tackle the steep Maynard Burn Trail to the 7,000-foot summit of Mount Ridley, a feat daunting even for the young. Last seen on September 6th along Grey Wolf Ridge, Thomas had camped with a friend just outside the park in the Buckhorn Wilderness. Promising to return by late afternoon, he didn't. As night fell, his friend alerted his family, who reported him missing. A dozen searchers scoured Muller Creek, his presumed route, but found nothing as darkness halted the effort. Park volunteer Emma Carter, a 2-year veteran, described the terrain as jagged and overgrown, nearly impassable in spots. Sergeant Paul Nguyen of the Jefferson County Sheriff's Office added, "If he was moving, we'd have seen him. If he fell, survival's unlikely." The search escalated with a UH-1H rescue helicopter, piloted by 35-year-old Chris Larson from Eugene, Oregon, alongside 52-year-old dog handler Susan Patel and 31-year-old ranger Liam Brooks. Mid-flight at 5,000 feet over Mount Ridley, Larson spotted a figure in a snowdrift matching Thomas's description. Lowering altitude to signal, the helicopter suddenly spun out of control, crashing into the mountainside. 3 crew members perished, and survivors, treated at Olympic Medical Center in Port Angeles, reported a mysterious jolt, some citing an impact, others a sudden wind gust. The National Transportation Safety Board and helicopter experts investigated, but the cause remains unsolved, with only faint screams recorded before impact. Thomas's family, devastated by the crash, requested the search halt a week later, feeling he'd disapprove of the risk. Park spokesperson Karen Holt vowed continued patrols, noting, "The case stays open until Mr. Hargrove is found, but with winter looming and no leads, hope fades." Declared legally dead recently, Thomas vanished without a trace. Oddly, that year, 21-year-old Port Angeles local Ryan Foster, an experienced hiker on his first solo trip, went missing in June, reappearing after nearly 2 weeks, with vague memories of disorientation, surviving on scant supplies. Could a similar force have claimed Thomas? The vanished boy of Adirondack elegance. In July 1971, 8-year-old Ethan Brooks joined his family at the prestigious Algonquin Retreat, a 12,500-acre summer resort in New York's Adirondack Mountains, soon to close after a sale. The luxurious cabins and 24-room lodge promised a memorable getaway, but tragedy struck. On July 9th, Ethan accompanied his uncle on a short woodland hike. The warm day led him to wear shorts, but spotting poison ivy, his uncle sent him back to their cabin mere hundreds of meters away to change into long pants. Ethan never returned. His uncle, growing anxious, retraced the path, learning from Ethan's brother that he'd wandered to the main lodge instead. Unable to find him there, the uncle asked a cousin who'd seen Ethan near a steep ridge nearby. After fruitless searching, the alarm was raised. The estate manager mobilized staff, but darkness ended the effort. Police launched one of New York's largest searches, deploying rangers, tracker dogs, infrared-equipped helicopters, and over 1,000 volunteers. A bloodhound traced Ethan's scent 30 miles to a small pond, searched thoroughly, but yielding no remains, suggesting he'd been carried by someone stronger, possibly kidnapped and washed to erase his trail. 6 weeks of exhaustive searching turned up nothing, baffling experts amid the estate's lack of witnesses beyond family. Ethan's parents endured years of hope and despair, launching public appeals. In 1993, a woman, a former psychiatric patient with false memory syndrome, claimed a relative dumped Ethan's body in a Lewis County lake, but divers found nothing. That year, a Montana hunter confessed to seeing child-sized bones near Algonquin in 1973 while poaching, but follow-ups yielded no remains, possibly lost to scavengers. In 2020, a diver training near the estate found a bone fragment, later identified as animal dashing hopes. The case, still open, grows colder, leaving Ethan's fate and his abductor unknown. The Cursed Valleys of Nahanni. In Canada's remote northwest, Nahanni National Park Reserve, a 11,600 square mile UNESCO site since 1978, hides a sinister history beneath its stunning rivers and canyons. For millennia, the Dean First Nations lived here, clashing with the Naha tribe in the Mackenzie Mountains. Oral tradition recounts a decisive Dean ambush under a new moon, creeping up to slay Naha patrols silently. Reaching the camp, they found it abandoned, food uneaten, fires smoldering, vanishing without a trace, a mystery that deterred future ascents. Gold seekers arrived in the early 20th century, but some disappeared. In 1906, brothers James and Henry Fraser braved a harsh winter to reach Gold Creek, striking gold. Returning with a team in spring, none returned. 3 years later, their younger brother found 2 headless skeletons by the creek, dubbing it Headless Creek and the valley Dead Men's Valley. Soon after, a Scottish engineer hired to survey a mining site vanished. A Dean-guided search party refused to climb the mountains after dusk, citing unexplained terror. In 1918, Yukon prospector Thomas Erickson, finding a rich gold vein, wrote home, then was found headless by his burned cabin, fueling headhunter rumors. By 1947, mining interest revived with Calgary expert Robert Sinclair and partner Tom Reynolds surveying sites. Splitting up near Virginia Falls, Sinclair carved a signal on a tree, but Reynolds never arrived. Sinclair, searching, felt disoriented in familiar woods, fled, and returned with a team, only to encounter Dean men warning of ghostly shapes, prompting a hasty retreat. Sinclair called the valley's atmosphere undeniably sinister. Nahanni's dark legacy persists, a place where nature and mystery collide. Whispers in the wild, unexplained vanishings. We embark on a journey into the eerie unknown, inspired by tales of the wild that stir the imagination. Let's explore stories of those lost to nature's embrace, where the answers remain elusive. The haunting winds of Nahanni. The ceaseless mournful howl of the wind lingers in my memory from Nahanni National Park. Over the decades, reports of strange deaths and vanishings have persisted, particularly in a stretch of the Mackenzie Mountains dubbed the Graveyard Ridge due to frequent plane crashes. Beyond the harsh terrain, Nahanni harbors some of the world's fiercest predators. Starving bears or wildcats could easily prey on humans, explaining some losses. Yet the mystery deepens. Could the disappearance of the Naha tribe centuries ago, found abandoned with smoldering fires, hold a clue? Solving one enigma might unravel a 1,000-year-old secret, though the truth might be too unsettling to face. The River Guide's Vanishing Act. In the summer of 2015, 23-year-old Liam Carter, a University of Wyoming English student from Cody, worked as a guide for RiverQuest, a Wyoming rafting outfit. Passionate and skilled, Liam quickly earned trust on the team and was tapped to lead a group through Grand Canyon National Park. On June 3rd, the 6th day of an 8-day Colorado River trip, all had gone smoothly until 4 p.m. Resting near the thermal Sapphire Springs, Liam asked the lead guide for a private word. He requested time off that afternoon, seeming fine despite the guide's concern. Before the conversation could deepen, a client interrupted, and when the guide turned back, Liam was gone. Assuming he'd wandered off to return later, the guide and client searched briefly, calling his name, but found nothing. At 7:28 p.m., police and rangers were notified. The next day, a large search team, hopeful due to Liam's fitness, scoured the area. After 48 hours with no sign, fears grew of a fatal fall or drowning. Despite sweeping cliffs and river stretches, no body emerged odd given his bright orange jacket and blue canteen. Rangers patrolled miles 10 to 220 and footpaths around Sapphire Springs for months, but Liam vanished as if erased. Most attribute it to a river accident, yet his belongings' absence fuels wilder theories like fleeing to start anew in Mexico, though his family's pleas went unanswered. Predators might consume flesh but not gear, leaving his fate a chilling puzzle. The cross-country dreamer's end. In August 1975, 21-year-old Hannah Reed from Vermont planned an epic road trip to a friend's California wedding, visiting every national park en route. Leaving on August 3rd, she reached Rapid City, South Dakota by August 5th, then hitched to Wind Cave and Yellowstone. There she bonded with hikers, one offering a stay in Idaho Falls. Later, between August 10 and 17, she traveled with a man named Paul, possibly romantically involved, visiting Grand Teton Glacier and Yellowstone before reaching Denver. On August 17th, her journal noted, "Denver CO left P," hinting at tension. That day, she called her 14-year-old brother from a Greyhound station, mentioning parting with Ranger, likely Paul, and planning a van trip with 3 French women to the Grand Canyon, though no rental or group evidence exists. On August 18th, staff at Flagstaff's Oasis Inn saw her leave happily, headed for the Grand Canyon. She never returned. After days of silence, her family reported her missing, sparking a search along highways. On August 27th, her belongings were found 30 miles west of Sebastopol, California, near where 4 murdered women were discovered, suggesting a serial killer. 4 travelers' checks were cashed fraudulently on September 3rd in California, then more in Albuquerque, hinting at a fleeing culprit. On September 10th, police informed her family of her body found in a side canyon of the Little Colorado River, dead about 3 weeks from severe head trauma, identified by dental records. Partially undressed, violation was unclear due to decomposition. Suspect Robert Hayes, a Mojave County tow truck driver with 4 prior homicide convictions involving young women stripping and redressing them, matched the pattern. Convicted in 1978 for murdering Las Vegas siblings and an FBI agent's daughter, he remains in a Wisconsin prison. Despite being a prime suspect, his trial for Hannah's murder seems unlikely, given the case's 47-year age, fading witnesses, and her parents passing, leaving only her brother to seek closure. The quiet hiker's escape. On July 23, 2019, 32-year-old Owen Davies, a reserved nature lover from Llandovery, Wales, bought water at 11:28 a.m. from a local shop, then vanished. Known for frequent Brecon Beacons trips, his week-long absences didn't alarm his parents until 8 days later, when unanswered texts piled up unusual given his portable charger. Visiting his flat, they found the door ajar, PlayStation on, and phone charging, but a black backpack, camping stove, headlamp and boots were gone. Police found no struggle or foreign DNA, suggesting a sudden departure. Search teams, hampered by rain and mud, used drones, dogs and night vision, focusing on the Brecon Beacons, but found nothing. The lead officer doubted he was camping locally without more gear. In January 2021, a Stratford-upon-Avon report of a homeless Welshman in September 2020 revived hope, but family searches there failed. Theories range from an accident plausible given no contact or bank use to a deliberate disappearance, supported by the sighting, though leaving money behind and ignoring family defy this. Murder or suicide lacks evidence, leaving his fate tied to the beacon's vastness. Why his body eludes discovery in this open terrain raises unsettling questions about what truly transpired.